Let's get her, boys! Impressive!
These are the top 25 badass villain scenes in the movies Volume 2. Let's kick things off with a nice dose of crazy. Harley's quite gnarly, especially if you know even a single % of how she is as a character, and this sequence pretty much shows us definitive proof of that statement. The police station scene shows Harley Quinn utilizing all of her gymnastic and flexible abilities, which definitely gives her the upper hand. We already saw how fit she was in Suicide Squad, so this was like watching the Olympics, but if the sport was called extreme violence. It's a proper example of a one-man army, or in this case, a one-woman army. Kudos to the sound design team too. I almost felt as if I was in the same cop station, but watching from a distance. Yeah, there's no gore or anything, but I've mentioned multiple times before that the effects we see are kind of like substitutes for the actual blood Miss Quinn is spilling. Well, at the end of the day, she gives us a badass sequence mixed with action and comedy, so I'm not complaining to Margot Robbie at all about it.
I'm not afraid of you.
Up next is a modern horror icon. The sequel may not have done as well as the first film, but we can't deny that this clown's got moves. Pennywise is a sinister character, and he thrives off fear. This monster is ready to do pretty much anything as long as it results in his targets getting creeped the heck out. It's no different here when he pulls off some pretty slick dance moves before continuing with his maniacal sense of entertainment. What really got me was how he pounced on Beverly immediately after and held her up with one arm, almost as if it was how he planned to end his performance. Honestly, if this was a hero like how Star-Lord did the whole dance-off thing with Ronan the Accuser, then we'd all be praising how badass it was. At the TV region, we don't discriminate at all, which is why I've rightfully included this sequence in favor of the Mad Clown. The man does seem to love his job, although I don't think the bodies and souls of his victims are appropriate means of remuneration. Well, look who we have here. I've already mentioned how one clown's got great dance moves, but this particular clown's got some serious issues. Arthur Fleck is a great example of character depth in a movie, and by that I'm only referring to the first Joker movie, okay? Man.
Last on the ground, and you win midair.
They really didn't need to ruin it with that sequel, but I suppose Hollywood never learns now, does it? Anyway, the Joker's dealing with a lot of messed up stuff, and a few annoying dudes at the subway aren't exactly helping his case. The whole idea of bullying may be wrong, but Jesus Christ, man, you don't need to shoot them down to make a point, do you? It's a great role reversal, and one I don't personally support such forms of retaliation. I do like how this is carried out in the movie because it makes us take Joaquin's character seriously for the first time in terms of how dangerous he can be. It's like he flipped the switch on the audience. Our man made us go from, oh man, we should help this guy, to, oh man, we should lock this guy up. In at number 22 is an absolute legend of the horror genre. Michael Myers is John Carpenter's most popular character, and in this comeback scene, he manages to leave it to our imagination. Going on a Halloween night killing spree may not be new in today's world, but Mr. Myers did make the whole concept popular in the first place, so it's only apt for him to do it again 40 years after the OG Halloween movie. This scene is shot amazingly well, building up suspense and dread as Michael goes around targeting different people. The way he ends the poor lady in the kitchen is largely left off screen, which was a nice move, because this way the audience can imagine in their own way how brutal the kill would have been. Look, he may be a crazy murderer and all of that, but at least our guy spared the baby. Up next is what I consider to be the last decent Predator in any media. I'd rather not get into how brutally they massacred this franchise, so let's enjoy one of those typical cases where the hunters become the hunted. 2022's Prey has quite a few exemplary scenes, but the Predator taking down the French trappers was the most badass of them all. It gives us a proper look into how effective the beast is while fighting, and we also see his monster design in great detail here. Yeah, those guys must have thought their plan to trap the Predator worked, but it barely took a few seconds for them to realize that they're way out of their league here. Dear God. The net dissolving that one trapper has to be one of the worst ways to go in any situation, and keeping it off screen only made it that much more haunting. All in all, this was the Predator's perfect chance to flex his skills, and he didn't disappoint.
You think you're learning how to beat me, so I'm gonna truly teach you something. If you fight me, I won't ever hurt you. I'll find someone you love and hurt them instead.
Horror villains are making a killing here, aren't they? The dad jokes aside, it's nice to see an antagonist making use of his nickname being in the title. 2020's The Invisible Man gives us a unique take on the character as he becomes invisible via the power of science and not some mysterious potions or whatever. By keeping Adrian grounded, his actions become a lot more terrifying, but in this case, we're looking at how he obliterates all the guards in the institution. Man, I've really felt bad for Cecilia, but come on, this is a pretty badass moment for Adrian. Look at those moves. Even with a malfunctioning suit, he was able to put on quite a show, and it takes a lot of skill for that. Like, if this guy wasn't evil, he'd actually make for a great superhero, don't you think?
I assume you have a preference.
Oh, I do. Kill away.
Ah, we're in a bit of familiar territory now, aren't we? Taking out the top Avengers is no small feat, and yet Thanos makes it look exactly like that. Continuing straight after the events of Thor Ragnarok, where the God of Thunder managed to harness some serious power, you'd imagine that our boy would actually give the Mad Titan a run for his money, but he ends up looking like a bullied kid at school. Forget Thor, and even after the Hulk showed up, it didn't really make much of a difference. Sure, he managed to get in a few punches, but Thanos finished him off faster than I finished a Nutella milkshake. It's an insane display of strength, and we're extremely worried for the Avengers right in the beginning of the movie. Yeah, this was probably the most badass way to announce the MCU's big bad wolf to the general audience.
Release your anger. Only your hatred can destroy me.
In at number 18 is Vader yet again. Yes, he was the prominent part of Volume 1, and here we see him in a little father and son bonding, which is in essence a duel. In many ways, this was the fight everyone wanted to see back in the day, especially after the massive success of the first Star Wars film. Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader was one of the most hyped up moments of the 80s, but at the end of it all, our boy didn't really have much of a chance against his dad now, did he? Yeah, he does keep up for a bit, but only a fool would think that Darth Vader was struggling at any point during the battle. Even the way he uses the Force is pretty badass, but that entrance and that pose were freaking amazing. You just knew you were going to witness greatness after you saw Darth Vader pulling up with all that drip.
Calm down, Doctor. Now's not the time for fear. That comes later.
Let's look at some familiar faces now. Bane beats a Game of Thrones regular, Littlefinger, and that too, quite easily. Sure, he's not the same character here,
Crashing displayed.
but fans of obnoxiously successful franchises will always draw comparisons, and yours truly is no exception. The first few minutes of The Dark Knight Rises are as good as an opening scene can get, with Bane being the center point of it all. Bill Wilson is bested without him even realizing that he was competing, which goes to show how far ahead Bane had thought for his plan to be executed so well. Man, this sequence had all the makings of a brilliant villain, but sadly, I can only maintain that energy till the first half of the movie. Yeah, I know I've said it like a million times already, but can you blame me? Up next is a crucial message to all pet parents. A mad dog is hard to tame even if you happen to be extremely skilled fighters. Just look at all the trouble Rama and Andy had to go through just to neutralize one man. Yeah, Mad Dog is ended at the end of the scene, but he was dominating the fight for 90% of the time until his final moment. And this is after we see Rama being such a pro when it comes to taking down villains. When I first saw this film in the theaters, I was thinking at this point that Rama's gonna rescue Andy with ease and turn Mad Dog into a tamed puppy. Man, was I wrong or what? The villain was tremendously skilled, and it took two fighters with the power of plot armor to eventually defeat him after putting in every ounce of skill they had in them. How did he even get faster after getting stabbed? Our man was like the final boss of not any game, but of life itself. Things are getting heated now that we've reached number 15. The Joker from The Dark Knight is the best villain from comic book movies.
Would you like to know which of them were cowards?
And to say that Heath Ledger's performance is worthy of applause is like saying milk is white. This man just never looks like he's in a spot of bother. Even here, when it looks like he's going to be subjected to some serious brutality, the Joker turns it around and gives us an explosion that deserves a standing ovation. It was a lot of trouble for a phone call, but when you realize how the call was connected to his grand plan, you can't help but marvel at the Joker's genius. Those poor cops literally got called by death.
Just shut up! Let him go now! Drop it on the floor now! Drop the weapon!
Sorry?
What do you want?
I just want my phone call.
Wife. And after all the outrage, when I'm ready, I'll go out on the water with a handful of pills and a pocket full of stones. And when they find my body, they'll know Nick Dunn dumped his beloved like garbage.
Up next is a self-antagonist who leaves a lot more than a lasting impression. Amy Dunn, played phenomenally by Rosamund Pike, is a psychotic individual. But hey, at least the girl's got a plan, right? While no singular action can be defined as super badass, it's her entire scheme that makes her a memorable and terrifying individual. The fact that she plans so much of what eventually happens in the movie is frightening, and it makes you wonder how effective she can be when allowed to do things in her own way. It's almost like David Fincher wanted to show us his version of American Psycho, but in the form of a vengeful wife. Man, Ben Affleck just can't catch a break, can he? Dude's got problems in real life as well as real life.
And she floated down past all the other abused, unwanted, inconvenient women. Then Nick will die too.
Know the name of verbal Kint.
The cripple, did you see him? The cripple, which way did he go?
Oh, he went out that way.
I know you know something. I know you're not telling you say something.
Number 13 may be considered unlucky to a lot of folks, but not verbal Kint. After all, he finds himself in that position for giving the world a walk that nobody will ever forget. The look on Kujan's face when he realized he got played pretty much told us whatever we needed to know. Kint fabricated a whole story just by piecing random information that was visible to him, and the final reveal that he's actually Kaiser Soze was an impeccable way to end the film. See, you don't always need to bring out punches and kicks to show you're badass. Sometimes, all you gotta do is make up a story that can take up an entire movie's runtime.
You know the whole fucking time!
Kaiser Soze.
If he comes up for anything, he's going to get rid of me. But I'm sure Keaton is dead.
I can't feel my legs, Kaiser.
Batty? Bring me everyone.
What do you mean, everyone?
Norman Stansfield comes in now with a massive shriek. Honestly, it's a scream that suits the rage as we see Norman emphasizing to his men that he wants everyone. This one word is enough to strike fear into all of our hearts, but you know what's so great about it? Gary Oldman actually wasn't meant to shout the word out like that. Yeah, he was just supposed to say it normally, but he thought he'd mess around here, and the result was so freaking good that the director kept it. Dude's got like 10 different facial expressions just for one word, so obviously they were going to keep it in the movie. Highly underrated actor if you ask me.
Shit. Hello, my dear.
It's Spider-Man!
Just barely missing out on the prime list is Green Goblin. Even so, his actions in this scene were so deadly that it should serve as a reminder to all board members out there about why you shouldn't ignore sacrifices.
You know how much I sacrificed?
The Green Goblin doesn't just make an entry here, he creates absolute chaos and also gets his revenge whilst he's at it. Of course, the most badass part of the scene to me is when he blocks Spider-Man's punch and sends him flying. But the whole sequence is a vibe, so I would have probably put it in here regardless of my highlight. Yeah, William Dafoe was definitely one of the main reasons why the first Spidey flick was such a hit.
Impressive!
It's top 10 territory time, so let's level up a bit, shall we? I present to you the real Giga Chad, because he spends the whole movie taking down other Chads. The Predator is definitely a superior life form, but he doesn't have to flex as hard as he does. Yep, he chooses to. That's a badass villain if I've ever seen one. Taking out Dylan after already hunting down so many other members of the squad was a show of strength. The way he does it is what makes it so memorable. Shooting down the man's arm and then lifting him up with one arm of his own was a statement and a half, further showcasing how outmatched humans are against this beast, even with numbers and firepower in their favour. Up next is Voldemort bringing out the big guns, or in this case, the big fire snake dragon. The battle between he who must not be named and Dumbledore was a moment every Harry Potter fan wanted to see on the big screen, and it's a fair adaptation in my opinion. This scene is yet another example of how badly CGI has deteriorated over the years, because how the heck can you make a wizarding duel look so awesome all the way back in 2007? That's freaking 18 years ago! It literally makes me feel as if I'm as old as Dumbledore myself, with the only difference being I would never been able to keep up with a badass like Voldemort. Now, we've got Agent Smith spooking out the main character. Hugo Weaving put in such a great performance that I was actually rooting for him the whole movie, right until the part where Neo becomes the One.
You disappoint me. You can't scare me with this Gestapo crap.
Now, Agent Smith has a couple of noteworthy interrogations, but it's the one with Neo that gets us. After all, when he seals his mouth shut, the audience is almost feeling the exact same way that our hero is, which is insane work. What happens to Neo is absolute nightmare fuel, which is exactly why I consider Agent Smith to be a legacy-level character.
You're going to help us, Mr. Henderson.
Fly.
Speaking of legacies, here's one that's over 65 years old. Anthony Perkins killed it as Norman Bates, and even though he looks like this lanky, harmless fellow, his actions tell a completely different story. The ending scene where we learn everything about him is what got me. The smile he gives us isn't just creepy or scary, but it's also intimidating in an odd way. It's like he's inviting us to come meet him so that we too can fall to our own doom. Yeah, it's a bit hard to describe it in terms of words, but I suppose not everything is meant to be intelligible from a conventional sense.
They're probably watching me. Well, let them. Let them see what kind of a person I am. I'm not even gonna swat that fly.
Look at the blood! Gotcha! Me? You stupid fuck!
Okay, here's Mr. Hannibal Lecter at your service. This man had such a limited amount of screen time, but I'm sure the director figured he was exhibiting sheer aura just from his presence. The first time Clarice meets him is an engaging experience where we can almost feel Hannibal's terrifying pressure. He's just standing there not saying a word, but that alone was enough to make us think highly of him, and when he starts speaking, we're simply captivated by his persona. One might argue that there's nothing badass about standing and talking, but I'm pretty sure Clarice would beg to differ.
enhancement, of course. Listen carefully. Look deep within yourself, Terry Starling. Go seek out Miss Moffat, an old patient of mine, M-O-F-E-T. Go now. I don't think Mix could manage again quite so soon, even though he is crazy. Go now!
At number 5 is another member of the Darth family. Our beloved Mr. Vader has already dominated Volume 1, so here's Darth Maul taking a cue from Mad Dog by battling against the two main dudes. The main difference here is that he actually manages to take out one of his opponents, and that too Liam freaking Neeson. Qui-Gon may not have known the ways of Brian from Taken, but he was a pretty good fighter, so to end him was a crazy flex. Also, Darth Maul is fighting and dominating both Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan here, which should be the highest flex in the Star Wars universe. But people may not have appreciated the movie during its release, but most of them did admit that Maul was a great addition to the franchise after the end of Vader. Also, I haven't mentioned it a lot, but Darth Maul's entrance was pretty dope too. It totally complemented the danger level he brought with him. Ah yes, how can we not have this one? The Terminator came back and with a bang. Who would have known that a robot simply fulfilling a casual promise would turn out to become one of the most replayed moments in film history?
I'll be back.
I'll be back is easily Arnold Schwarzenegger's most quotable line, and it's content like this that really makes me wish I experienced my teenage in the 80s. Like, this franchise should have just ended after the sequel, because there's no way you can top this kind of badassery. Just look at how cool the T-800 is without even needing to put in any effort. Our man is aura farming with the most basic lines, and he follows it up by absolutely destroying a place of the law. On a lighter note, imagine going into a police station to end one person and you happen to end everyone except for the exact person. Yeah, this is why I don't cover the whole story for certain scenes.
That's the spirit!
Wow, it's been a while since I covered this film. The OG Blade Runner is a beautiful movie that captures the essence of sci-fi mixed with humanitarian themes, and it's perfectly showcased in the chaos before Roy Batty's speech, as well as the speech itself.
I'm gonna have to kill you.
That shot of Roy's head popping out and looking at Deckard with that menacing glare has to be one of the creepiest things I've ever seen, but it's also badass because he's making the protagonist almost wet his pants. It's pretty clear that Deckard had no chance against Roy, even after all the tricks he tried. And the only reason he got out of that mess was because Roy became as human as he possibly could. Just look at the whole sequence right from the start till the end. Deckard's main weapon against the villain was nothing more than plot armor, but hey, I'm quite happy with the way things ended. The Terminator may have made us cheer, but Roy Batty made us weep, and that's what makes him so special.
Let's get her, boys!
Oh yes, we've got classic after classic coming in, don't we? Stanley Kubrick is considered to be one of the greatest directors of all time, and you could argue in favour of that claim if you look at how brilliantly he showed us absolute shenanigans and ultra-violence here. A Clockwork Orange is definitely a controversial film, and it has many moments that film scholars and audiences have discussed for decades. However, a badass scene that really stands out is in the opening itself. At this point, we don't really know what to expect from Alex the Large because the film has just begun. We see a gang doing villainous activities, and then Alex comes in with his crew to give us some chaotic brilliance. The gang fight was super badass for a movie that came out in 1971, and it serves as a solid base for establishing Alex's inner dialogue. Even Quentin Tarantino, who usually likes to criticize Kubrick, had mentioned that he absolutely loved this sequence. Yes, that number 1 is also a classic, but from over a century ago. It may not seem like much now, but this scene was the spookiest thing ever at the time. Nosferatu was the first proper vampire movie ever released to the public, and the people had no idea what to expect from Count Orlok, who's basically a legally safe alternative name for Dracula. This moment where he shows himself properly in his monstrous form had pretty much everyone in clutch because they'd never seen such a thing before. It was scary for sure, but if you think about it, this was also quite badass in terms of the respect Orlok commands from his presence. It's a silent movie for sure, but a lot of movie characters have been able to dominate a scene using a similar structure and build-up. It's pretty much the oldest example of providing excellent horror without any jump scare. Honestly, this scene makes it to number 1 simply by virtue of how it became a blueprint for directors that came after this generation. Hope you like this video. Please subscribe to the TV Regent, and here's another video that I know you're going to enjoy.